I'm telling you, I'm so tired of carrying this load. This thing is just more than I can almost bear. Heavy, heavy, every step of the way. I've been carrying it all my life too, and it's really, the older I get, the heavier it gets. And I just don't know about this. I tell you, I'm really getting tired. Seems like I've been all the way along the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. The bugs have been absolutely awful. I wish the mosquitoes didn't love me so much. I am just so hot and tired. You know, I don't even like people, but there's times there's not anybody on this trail, and I'm just sure makes me feel lonesome out here.
Hello, how are you today?
Well, I really don't know. I tell you, it has rained on me and I've been wet. The sun's come out and I've perspired and I've been wet. I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and this thing seems to get heavier the longer I go along.
I can see that. Boy, that's a mighty big load you have. What's in there anyway?
Oh, all my belongings. For example, I carry all my bitterness in here, and all my revenge, and all my puffed up pride. And I have lots of boulders of hate and disgust and unforgivingness. Don't forget that unforgivingness. You can hang on to that forever. But most of all, it's my anger. It's my anger. I'm angry at my father because when I stole two little things 2 different times from the drugstore, just little old things, nothing really, I don't know what made me do it. Well, he called the police chief, and the police chief came to our house. He reamed me up one side and down the other, and where he stopped, my dad picked up. So now I have to carry my dad, so don't ever go anywhere without those, because they'll keep you from doing something so stupid ever again. And maybe you won't have to go to prison for being a thief. But he said, there's no other name for a thief than a thief. Is that what you want people to think of you? Well, I told him I didn't care what people thought of me. Nobody likes me anyway. Most of my friends call me grumpy. I asked them one time, why do you call me grumpy? So I have anger about my dad. I have anger about friends who call me grumpy. I have anger about things I didn't like when I was a child. I have anger with my brothers and sisters that I didn't get along with. I just have boulders and boulders and boulders and boulders of anger in this thing. And it's really heavy.
I can see that. Well, today, this is about all I carry. And someday, I hope to be rid of it too.
Well, where's the rest of your stuff? Where's your hate and your bitterness and your anger? Where do you keep all of that?
The anger, yes, I remember it well. Well, fortunately, most of that's gone. I don't have it anymore. You see, I found that it wasn't really doing me any good, nor was it doing me any good to the people I love or those who passed through my life. In fact, it was actually quite destructive, and so I just got rid of it.
You mean you got somebody to carry your load?
Actually, I did.
Well, who is stupid enough to do that?
Someone very, very special. Someone whom I think you should meet.
Someone you think I should meet?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you take me to meet that person?
Absolutely, I can.
I don't know. Do you think he would really want to meet me?
I think in particular he wants to meet you, Grumpy. And perhaps people like you.
So you mean that this person is somebody who's interested in everybody?
Oh, absolutely. You know, as I reflect on life, this is the truth that I've learned, and I'll share it with you in love. God has given each of us, regardless of our race, creed, color, our sexual orientation, our gender, or even our status, every human being, someone who's willing to take on our burden. And all that's asked in return is that we let him have it. Will you come with me?
Well, I don't know. This all sounds too good to be true. I don't know that I believe this. But I'll tell you what, if for no other reason I want to meet this character out of curiosity, if nothing else.
Of course.
Because I really think this could be a setup. But can you take me there now?
Absolutely. Let's go.
By the way, what's this dude's name?
Ah, yes. Let me introduce you to Jesus.
You were great. Sorry I bothered. Now, I would dare say that there may be one or two people in this room that are carrying some anger. And you know, as well as I know, it's a heavy load to carry anger all the time, or any time. As a matter of fact, as a clergy person who tries to listen to everybody's story and hear about everybody's life, I would say that of all the things in the world, more than sexual issues, more than money issues, more than other kinds of issues, that anger is the one thing that I hear the most about. Now, the thing that's fascinating about the scripture this morning that Jane read for us is it begins with the instructions, be angry. Imagine reading that in the Bible, be angry. So does that mean that it's not just okay to be angry, but that there might actually be a time that God is calling you to be angry? Could that be the case? Well, I want to tell you about some things from my life, since we're still getting acquainted. To this day, when I see newsreels of the then governor of Georgia, Lester Maddox, standing on the steps of his would-be restaurant, slinging an axe handle so that black people will know they're not welcome there, in the capital city of Atlanta, I'm angry. I am still angry at him. Everybody that I would meet back then would say, oh yeah, you're from Lester Maddox's estate, aren't you? I'm angry. I'm angry. And I think God calls us to be angry about social injustices, both very public ones and very private ones. Now I'll tell you a private one. Russ and I were hiking in the Blue Hills near the Curry College campus where he was teaching. This is back in the 80s. And I got overheated. We had taken some water, but not enough. So Russ said, let's walk down to the little town of Reedsville because we're closer to that than we are the car, and go in that little cafe and get some water. So we went in, and I went up to the bar and said to the man, I really would like to buy some water. I'm really about to pass out. And with great indignity, he said, this is a tavern, lady, and in Massachusetts, tavern only serve men. You're not welcomed here. No water. Believe me, there was a bit of anger displayed that day. Not only by me, but by my gentle, spirited husband, who you have to almost beat on the head to get him to be angry. Well, I so wished I had belonged to a women's liberation movement and I could go back down there and march in there with 30 or 40 or 50 women and say, so who you not going to serve, fella? But maybe we need to take seriously the rest of the text as well as that first part. Because even though we are instructed to be angry, the next words are, but do not sin. So what does that mean? Does that mean you can have too much anger? That you can have it for too long? That you need to learn to, as Karen did, give her load to God? What does that mean? And do not sin. Well, the text goes on to say, and do not let the sun go down on your anger. Now, when I first read that, I thought, well, at least I get 24 hours. I'm not sure that in the Bible, biblical time is the same as time in our time. I even wonder if maybe that meant don't be angry until the sleep of death comes. And then particularly, don't be angry then. One of the most personal, painful things in my life was during my first year in ministry, my only sister, who was older than me, was dying with cancer. It was clear she was dying. Even though we were all in denial, it was still clear she was dying. And partly because it was my first year in ministry, and partly because I knew that I had always felt closer to God than she had seemed to, I said to her, is there any way that you can feel that God is with you on this journey? She grabbed my arm very tightly and she said, Sammie, I can take anything that God dishes out to me, but I will never, ever forgive God for what this cancer is doing to my wonderful 14-year-old daughter and my precious 21-year-old son. That was the last time I talked to her face to face. And knowing Peggy, wherever she is still telling God, you were wrong, you were wrong. This time you were wrong. The same way that you were wrong that every time someone we love has to die, whatever age they are, whatever the conditions. But I am thoroughly convinced that just as God laughs with the children, God still loves us when we're angry at God. God still embraces us. God is still there with us. God is with us in life, and believe me, I believe that God is with us in death. So, this morning, I want you this next week to think about, what are you angry about? Some people, unfortunately, are angry at our church. And I'm not sure why. Sometimes it's clearer than other times. Some people are angry that you had a favorite pastor for years and years, and it came time for her to retire. Well, all you retired people ought to know that some ministers, not all, but some ministers want to retire. And some of you are angry that Pat felt the Spirit calling her to leave you. I'm going to tell you, leaving a congregation is among the hardest thing in the world to do. Because the people who didn't like you will be celebrating, and the people who do like you will be weeping. And all of them will have anger. But I assure you that Pat loved this congregation. And she grieved leaving. And I want to encourage you, if you feel led by the Spirit, to still write her notes, call her up, befriend her. I don't need to be jealous of Pat. I'm who I am. Pat had her talents, and I have my talents. And I'm going to tell you, I'll never be as organized as Pat, no matter how long I live. I know you think my sermons are long. I know that you think my stories are too plentiful. So, partly because of the skit, and partly because of the clock on the wall, I'm not going to tell you any more stories. Today, that is. But I do want to close with something I found this week when I was working on this sermon that is very meaningful to me, and I think it will be to you. I did not write this. I thought about memorizing it and pretending like I did. But then I remembered today's scripture said something about do not steal. So, and also I remembered how many retired clergy there are in this congregation. And Maria and Ray may subscribe to this website called Unfolding Light, and I knew that they might recognize that that didn't come from her. But I do want to read it to you. It's written by a fellow clergy person named Reverend Steve Garnis Holmes. And next week I'll have his webpage in the bulletin. So if you want to log on every morning he does these wonderful poems and prayers that are just so meaningful. So this one happens to be about anger. Anger is not a sin. It's a feeling. It's not your enemy. It's also not righteousness. Anger may arise in the face of injustice or happenstance, or almost nothing at all. But it's not against those things. It's not about those things at all, but about your response to those things. Anger is a response to your powerlessness. Otherwise, you would simply fix what's wrong. Anger is your loyal friend. It's giving you a message and won't leave till you get it. So don't neglect or suppress your anger. It will sit there and simmer in your mind's basement and become toxic to you and others. and consciously or not, you will weaponize it. Don't turn your anger against anybody, including yourself. Just listen to it. It's telling you about your powerlessness, and it's telling you what you care about. Listen to your anger and ask, what's not right? Do I really care about this? This anger could just be a conditional response, but it's letting you know of your misplaced desire for power and control. If this thing is not worth caring about, you can let your anger be without reacting to it. Just let it be, and let yourself be powerless. After all, we are. If I do care about this, ask, what can I do? Remember, you're still powerless, but let your anger direct your attention to what you can do, not to hurt, not to avenge, or to make yourself feel less powerless, but to make the situation better. In action, you will regain your power. And then you can thank your old friend anger. Amen.